This is my true story. I was a husband who gave my wife everything, my love, my trust, and my heart. I believed she was loyal and faithful, but I was wrong. Behind my back, she was with our neighbor. The affair hurt me deeply, but the worst part was her mockery. She laughed at me for trusting her, as if my devotion was a joke. That pain pushed me to act. I stood up one day and revealed her affair in front of everyone. But before I share how, tell me where you're watching from, and please subscribe. From the first day of marriage, I gave my wife all of me. I gave her my love, my loyalty, and my trust without limits. I worked hard to give her comfort, to make sure she never lacked food, clothes, or a warm home. I believed marriage was built on honesty and respect. I never thought twice about her loyalty because in my heart, I trusted her completely. People around me sometimes gave warnings. Some said, "Be careful, not every smile is pure." Others hinted that I should keep an eye on her, but I always brushed those words aside. I believed my wife would never hurt me, never cross the line of respect we built together. My love for her was strong, and my trust was even stronger. I remember the many evenings we spent together, where I would sit tired after work and she would place food on the table. In those small moments, I felt safe, thinking she cared for me just as I cared for her. Even when I saw her laughing a little too much with others, I told myself not to worry. I thought trust was the foundation of a strong marriage, and I wanted ours to be unshakable. I never doubted her intentions, because to doubt her would mean questioning my own heart. Our neighbor lived just next door, and I thought of him only as a friend. I greeted him often, helped him when he needed tools, and even shared meals sometimes. I never imagined he could be anything more than a casual friend to our family. I thought my wife treated him with respect the same way I did. I believed she saw him only as a neighbor, nothing else. I had no reason to suspect otherwise because my mind was not built for suspicion. I thought loyalty was natural. I thought kindness was safe. Looking back now as an old man, I see how blind faith can sometimes become weakness. But in those days, I didn't see weakness. I only saw love. My devotion was my pride. I was proud that I could give my wife full trust, that I could love without conditions. That pride made me ignore every small sign, every small warning. My heart was so full of faith that it could not hold suspicion. Even when my friends teased me for being too trusting, I laughed it off. I thought, what is marriage without trust? I told myself loyalty was natural for her, the same way it was for me. I thought we were walking the same path, step by step. I gave her all my trust, but I did not know then that she was walking in a different direction with someone else. I built my world around the belief that she was mine and I was hers. I didn't keep secrets. I didn't hide money. I didn't keep watch on her movements. I thought honesty was enough. I thought respect was enough. I thought my trust would make her trust me too. But the truth was different. My trust became a shield for her lies. And yet, in those early years, I was happy in my ignorance. I looked at her and saw loyalty. I looked at the neighbor and saw only friendship. I did not know that both of them were holding secrets behind my back. I believed my faith made me strong. But that same faith was about to make me blind to the betrayal that grew quietly around me. At first, I did not see anything. My trust blinded me. But slowly, small signs began to show. They were not loud signs. They were quiet, like whispers that only the heart can hear. Whenever the neighbor's name came up in conversation, I noticed something in her face. Her eyes lit up in a way I had not seen in years. It was not the same look she gave me when I came home tired from work. It was excitement, like a spark she could not hide. I told myself it was nothing, but my heart felt uneasy. She started to change in little ways. When the neighbor was around, she dressed differently. She wore clothes that she never wore when it was just me at home. She brushed her hair more carefully, wore perfume, and looked at herself in the mirror longer than before. At first, I thought maybe she just wanted to feel good. I even told myself, she is keeping herself beautiful, and that is a good thing. But then I saw the pattern. She only did this when she knew the neighbor would be nearby. That realization pressed against my chest, but still, I turned away from it. I noticed how much time she spent outside. If the neighbor was outside watering his plants, she suddenly had a reason to step out. If he was in his yard, she found excuses to hang clothes on the line or sweep the front porch. Sometimes she would be out there longer than needed, laughing at small things, speaking in a voice louder than normal, as if she wanted him to hear her. I would watch from inside, feeling something break inside me, but I told myself not to think badly of her. I told myself she was just being friendly. But deep down, I knew the unease was growing. It was like a shadow following me. I started to feel like an outsider in my own marriage. I would come home from work, and she seemed distracted. If the neighbor's car was gone, she was normal. But if his car was parked outside, her mood changed. She became restless, almost glowing with some secret energy. My heart whispered that something was wrong, but my mind said, "No, you must trust your wife. She would not do this to you." There were other small things. When I walked into the room while she was on her phone, she would quickly put it down. When I asked what she was doing, she said, "Nothing." I believed her because I wanted to believe her. I wanted to hold on to the picture of her as my loyal wife. I wanted to think my marriage was still strong. But every small change in her behavior was another crack in the wall of trust I had built. I remember one evening clearly. We were sitting at the table, and I mentioned the neighbor's name in passing. Her face changed instantly. Her lips curled into a smile she did not give me anymore. Her eyes brightened like a child hearing good news. She tried to hide it, but I saw it. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to look away. I ate my food in silence, telling myself, "You are imagining things. Do not think badly. Do not doubt her." Looking back, I see how blind I was. The signs were clear. The excitement in her face, the way she dressed, the long hours outside, the hidden phone. Each one was a warning, but my faith made me cover my eyes. I thought trust was strength, but in those days, it became my weakness. I chose trust over suspicion because I loved her too much to believe she could betray me. Now, as I tell this story, I know that ignoring the signs was a mistake. I gave her my full trust, and she used that trust as a shield to hide behind. The subtle signs were not so subtle after all. They were bright as day, but I chose not to see them. My love made me blind, and that blindness only gave her more room to betray me. The worst wound did not come from what I saw. It came from what I heard. One evening, I was walking back home later than usual. As I reached the gate, I heard voices. They were coming from the backyard. My wife's laughter rang out first. It was not the laughter she gave me. It was sharper, younger, full of joy that I had not heard in years. Then came another voice, the neighbor's voice. They were laughing together, and I stopped to listen. My hands grew cold as I realized they were not just talking. They were mocking me. I stayed quiet in the shadows, and the words came clear. My wife's voice carried a cruel tone as she spoke about me. She called me blind. She said I trusted her too much. She laughed at the way I believed in her loyalty. Those words cut through me deeper than any knife could. For years, I thought my trust was proof of love. For her, it had become a joke. She mocked the very thing I gave her most, my faith in her. Each laugh was like a hammer breaking my heart into pieces. The neighbor joined in. He did not defend me. He did not stop her. Instead, he laughed along. He added his own cruel remarks. He said I was too loyal, too soft, too easy to fool. Together they made fun of the man I was, the husband, the friend, the neighbor who trusted them both. Their voices mixed into one sound of betrayal, one sound of shame. I stood there in silence, feeling the weight of their laughter fall heavy on me. That moment was worse than the affair itself. Betrayal is painful, but to be mocked for trust is something else. It felt like I was standing naked in front of them, stripped of dignity, stripped of worth. My loyalty was not valued, it was ridiculed. They saw my heart not as a gift, but as weakness. I realized then that the bond I thought was strong was nothing but a joke to them. I walked inside quietly, pretending I had heard nothing. But the sound of their laughter stayed with me. At night, when I lay in bed, I could still hear it. Her voice, sharp and playful, saying I was blind. His voice, heavy with false pride, saying I was a fool. They laughed as if my love was something to spit on. I turned my face to the wall, hiding my tears, because I knew that if I let it show, she would mock me again. The pain became a silent fire. Every memory of my sacrifices burned inside me. The nights I worked late so she could live in comfort, the trust I gave her when others warned me, the respect I showed to the neighbor as if he was my brother. All of it turned to ash when I remembered that cruel laughter. Love turned to sorrow. Friendship turned to betrayal. Trust turned to mockery. That was the night my heart broke completely. From then on, nothing she said could touch me the same way. Every word out of her mouth felt hollow, because I knew behind it was laughter meant for another man. She did not value my faith. She mocked it. She mocked me. The neighbor, too, showed his true face that night. He was not my friend. He was my betrayer, my enemy, hiding in plain sight. I carried this truth alone. I told no one. To the world, we looked like a normal couple. To the world, he was still my neighbor, still my friend. But inside, I carried a scar made not by betrayal itself, but by the cruel joke they made of me. And I knew one thing clearly. If they could mock me in secret, I would not stay silent forever. One day, the same laughter they threw at me would be silenced by the truth. After hearing their laughter, I carried a silence that no one else could see. On the outside, life went on as usual. I woke up, I went to work, I came home, I sat at the dinner table, and I played the role of a husband who still believed everything was fine. But inside, I was breaking. My heart was heavy every hour of the day, but I forced myself to keep it hidden. I could not show her that I knew. I could not give her the satisfaction of seeing my pain. So I swallowed it. At night, when the house was quiet, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My body was tired, but sleep never came. I could hear their laughter echoing in my mind, replaying like a cruel record that would not stop. Her voice calling me blind, his voice mocking my loyalty. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces twisted with amusement. The woman I had loved for years, the man I had trusted like a brother, both turning me into a joke. My chest felt heavy, my throat burned, but I never let a sound escape. I remembered every sacrifice I made for her. I remembered the nights I worked late, sweating and straining, so she could live in comfort. I remembered the times I stood up for her when people spoke against her. I remembered how I chose trust over doubt every single time someone whispered rumors in my ear. And now I realized what my trust meant to her. Nothing. She had taken my love, my loyalty, and turned them into weapons of mockery. The more I remembered, the more it hurt. The pain was not just about betrayal, it was about disrespect. Betrayal can happen in weakness, but mockery comes from cruelty. She did not only betray me, she laughed at the fact that I believed in her. She turned my strength of trust into weakness, something to ridicule. And the neighbor, the man who ate at my table, who drank from my glass, who called me friend, joined her in that cruelty. That was the wound that bled deepest. During the days, I acted normal. I greeted people. I went to work. I smiled when needed. No one could see what was inside me. I carried the pain quietly because I had no one to share it with. Who could I tell? Who would believe me? If I spoke, they would lie. They would twist my words. They would call me paranoid. So I locked the truth inside my chest and let the silence eat at me. Some nights, I sat alone in the dark, thinking about my life. I wondered if everything I believed in was a lie. I wondered if my marriage had ever been real, or if it was built on my blind faith while she lived another life in shadows. I thought about my neighbor. How many times had he shaken my hand while laughing at me in secret? How many times had he looked me in the eye while knowing he was stabbing me in the back? These questions tore at me like claws. The loneliness grew heavier. To sit across from her at the dinner table, knowing what she had said and pretending not to know, it was a torment. To greet him at the fence, knowing what he had done and acting as though we were still friends, it was unbearable. Every smile I forced felt like poison. Every word I spoke in their presence felt like ashes in my mouth. But I kept quiet because I was not ready yet. My silence was not weakness. It was the weight of waiting. My trust, once mocked, became my armor. I told myself, they think I am blind, but I see them now. They think I am weak, but I am holding power in my silence. Every moment I kept the truth hidden, I was building strength. They thought they had broken me, but in that pain, I began to change. My tears dried into steel. My hurt turned into resolve. My silence was no longer just suffering. It was the space where I planned what would come next. I learned in those quiet days that not every battle is fought with shouting. Sometimes the deepest pain teaches you to wait, to gather, to sharpen the truth until it becomes a blade. My wife thought she had the upper hand. My neighbor thought he was untouchable. They thought their secret was safe, and that I was too weak to see. But in my silent suffering, I knew one day the truth would rise. And when it did, it would destroy them both more than their laughter ever destroyed me. After days and nights of silent suffering, I found the proof I could no longer ignore. I saw messages on her phone, messages full of affection for him, messages that should never have existed. I found call logs showing long, secret conversations with the neighbor late at night. My chest tightened with every new discovery. I realized that private confrontation would only lead to lies. She would deny everything. He would cover for her. The truth would stay hidden if I did not act carefully. That was the moment I knew something had to change. I began to plan. I knew shouting at them in private would accomplish nothing. They were clever. They were proud. They would twist my words, laugh in my face, and make me seem like the one who was wrong. I needed a plan that could not be denied. I needed proof that could not be twisted. Evidence that would speak louder than their excuses. I collected screenshots, photos, and even recordings of their voices. Each piece of evidence became a brick in the foundation of the confrontation I would build. As I held the recordings in my hands, I felt a strange mixture of sorrow and strength. The sorrow was for what they had done, the heartbreak they had caused. The strength came from knowing that at last, the truth could not be hidden. Every night I had spent in quiet pain, every tear shed in secret, had prepared me for this moment. I would no longer be a victim. I would no longer be mocked. The moment of revelation was coming, and it would be public, undeniable, and final. I chose the place carefully. It had to be somewhere they could not escape, somewhere their friends and family could see. I decided on a gathering, the neighbor's party. Everyone would be there. Everyone would witness the truth. It was not about revenge and anger. It was about exposure, about showing the world what they had done. Their mocking laughter would turn silent when faced with the proof. I would stand calmly, not shout, not plead. The truth would speak for itself. Every step I took to prepare was done quietly. I rehearsed in my mind how it would unfold. I imagined holding up the evidence, pressing play on the recordings, and watching as the laughter froze in their faces. I pictured the gasps, the whispers, the shock spreading through the room. I imagined the neighbor's pride crumbling, her arrogance disappearing, her mockery silenced. In that visualization, I found peace. It was no longer about my pain. It was about justice, about restoring the balance they had broken. The proof itself became more than paper or recordings. It became my voice when they tried to steal it. It became my strength when my heart still ached. Each photo, each message, each recording was a testament to their betrayal. I held them carefully, knowing that when the time came, they would speak louder than I ever could. They could lie about my feelings, about my reactions, about everything else. But the evidence could not lie. It was the silent judge that would condemn them publicly. I remember sitting alone that night before the party, holding the recordings in my hand. I felt the weight of years of trust, devotion, and love pressing down on me. I felt the heartbreak that had cut deep, yet I also felt a sense of calm determination. This was not about anger or revenge in the common sense. It was about truth. It was about letting the world see what had been hidden behind closed doors. For the first time in weeks, I felt control returning to my hands. The turning point was not just discovering the proof, it was deciding how to use it. I could have confronted them privately, let them lie, let them continue their life without consequences. But that would have left the cruelty unpunished. That would have left me carrying the mockery in silence. I wanted them to feel the weight of what they had done, to see the reaction of those around them, to understand that betrayal has consequences. I wanted the world to hear what I had heard in secret. By the end of that night, I had a plan, a location, and the proof in my hands. I knew the next step would change everything. I had carried the pain quietly for too long. I had endured the laughter, the betrayal, the mockery. Now, I had a way to show them, and everyone else, the truth. The turning point was clear. I would no longer be the man they mocked in secret. I would be the man who revealed the truth publicly, calmly, and without fear. The day of the gathering came. I walked in quietly, blending with the crowd. No one noticed the storm inside me. My heart beat steadily, but my mind was sharp and focused. I had rehearsed everything in my head, how I would hold the evidence, how I would act calmly, how I would let the truth speak. I was not angry, not yet. My plan was not chaos, it was clarity. I knew that shouting or blaming would make them seem like victims. I needed control, and I had it. As I moved closer to where they sat, I saw her face. She looked happy, confident, unaware that everything was about to change. The neighbor was laughing with friends, proud and careless. Their arrogance, their mockery, had made them blind. I felt a deep calm inside me. I held the recordings and the messages carefully in my hand. They were small, simple things, but they carried the weight of every betrayal, every cruel word, every secret they had shared behind my back. I waited until the moment was right. The music faded, conversation slowed, and all eyes turned naturally toward the center of the room. I stepped forward, slowly, making no sudden movements. Every eye followed me, sensing something unusual. I felt the tension rise, but I stayed steady. My voice was not yet needed. The evidence would speak first. I held it out, showing them the truth that they had tried to hide. My hands did not shake. My heart was heavy, but my mind was clear. I pressed play on the small speaker I had brought. The sound filled the room. Their voices, unmistakable, came out clearly for everyone to hear. The laughter, the teasing, the mocking words, they were no longer whispers behind closed doors. They were public, undeniable, and shattering. People froze. Conversations stopped. Eyes widened in shock. I saw her face turn pale, her confidence vanish instantly. The neighbor looked stunned, unable to hide the guilt that had once been concealed in shadows. I stood there, holding nothing but the truth. I said no words at first. The recordings were enough. Every message, every proof, every cruel laugh they had shared now echoed in the room. There was no escape. No denial could survive this moment. The world they thought was theirs. The friends, the family, the laughter, the trust. They lost it in an instant. And all of it was because I had waited, planned, and acted with patience and clarity. I saw the reaction spread through the crowd. Some gasped, some whispered, some covered their mouths in shock. The energy in the room shifted. What had been a cheerful gathering became tense, heavy with realization. Their mocking of me, their betrayal in secret, had become their public shame. I felt no glee, no celebration. I felt peace. The truth had finally been released, and I could stand tall, knowing I had acted rightly. She tried to look away, to hide her face, but everyone saw. The neighbor tried to laugh it off, but no one listened. Every word they had whispered in secret was now amplified. Their arrogance, their pride, their mockery, it all collapsed under the weight of evidence. I held my head high. I did not yell. I did not accuse. I let the truth do its work. It was sharper than any anger, louder than any scream, stronger than any revenge I could have imagined. Standing there, I realized something important. Revenge is not about shouting or destroying others physically. Revenge is about letting truth shine in the face of lies. By standing calmly and revealing the evidence, I had won more than any argument. I had shown the world who they really were. I had preserved my dignity, and I had taught them a lesson they would never forget. Trust is sacred, and betrayal has consequences. By the end of that moment, I felt something lift from my shoulders. The weight of their laughter, their betrayal, their mockery, gone. It was replaced by a quiet satisfaction, a sense of justice that could not be denied. I looked at her one last time as she realized her world had changed. I looked at him and saw the pride drained from his eyes. I did not smile. I did not gloat. I simply stood there, a man who had been wronged, now holding the truth as his shield and sword. The room went silent immediately. The laughter and chatter that filled the air moments before vanished. The voices from the recordings echoed, unstoppable and clear, and everyone turned their eyes toward them. My wife's face lost all color. Her confident, mocking expression crumbled into fear and disbelief. She could not hide. She could not deny. The neighbor froze, realizing that their secret had become public. Their arrogance vanished, replaced by panic. I watched them both, standing tall, knowing that the power they once held over me and others had disappeared in a single moment. I felt a strange sense of calm as the shockwave spread. Whispers traveled quickly across the room. People looked at each other, unsure how to react, but everyone understood what had happened. The betrayal was no longer hidden behind closed doors. It was laid bare, undeniable, and irreversible. Her friends, his friends, family members, all saw the truth. The weight of the laughter that had once mocked me was now reversed. Now, they were the ones who would feel shame and judgment from everyone around them. I could see the disbelief on the faces of those closest to them. Friends who had trusted my wife looked confused and hurt. People who had respected the neighbor suddenly turned their eyes away in disgust. Their reputations, carefully built over years, were collapsing before them. I felt no satisfaction in their shame. My goal was never to humiliate for pleasure. My goal was to expose the truth, to end the mockery, and to reclaim my dignity. The shockwave did all of that without me needing to raise my voice. Her face twisted with fear. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. The people around her were waiting for an explanation, and she had none. The neighbor stammered, trying to regain control, but the evidence was undeniable. Every word, every laugh, every secret moment they had shared in darkness was now in the light. No lie could survive it. Their plan, their affair, their mocking of me, all collapsed instantly. It was a complete reversal of power, and I watched quietly, strong and calm. Some people turned to me, their eyes filled with surprise. They had no idea of the depth of the betrayal until now. I nodded slightly, acknowledging their shock without speaking. The evidence had spoken louder than I ever could. My silence, once mistaken for weakness, had become a weapon. The room was no longer a party. It had become a courtroom where truth ruled, and they were the guilty. I felt the burden of pain I had carried for weeks begin to lift. Their shock was my closure. I could hear whispers of disbelief spreading. I can't believe she did this. How could he betray us? It's true. It's all true. The truth spread faster than I could have imagined. Every laugh, every secret, every betrayal became a story that everyone in that room now understood. They realized that the life my wife and the neighbor had tried to hide was built on lies. And now, there was no escape from judgment. The shock wave of truth was unstoppable, sweeping through the crowd like fire. I stood there calmly, watching as their faces turned from arrogance to panic. My wife's eyes pleaded silently, but there was no help coming. The neighbor tried to make excuses, but no one listened. I did not need to intervene further. The shockwave of exposure was enough. Their friends and family were processing what they had heard, and their reactions were final. They could no longer hide behind smiles, behind charm, behind secrecy. The truth had found them, and it struck harder than anything I could have done physically. The more the room absorbed the evidence, the clearer it became. Betrayal cannot survive in light. Mockery cannot last when confronted with truth. Their arrogance, the very thing that had caused me pain, was now their undoing. I saw people turning to each other, exchanging looks of disbelief and pity. Some tried to comfort my wife, but even then, the shock was written on everyone's face. I realized then that no action on my part could have been more powerful than simply showing the truth. Even in the chaos, I felt peace. I had not shouted. I had not acted in anger. I had let the evidence speak. And now, the shockwave of truth was clear for all to see. My dignity remained intact. My silence, once a source of pain, had become a shield. The laughter that had haunted me in private was now replaced by the stunned silence of those who once mocked me in secret. This was the moment I had prepared for, the moment where betrayal met justice, quietly and powerfully. By the end of it, I knew the shockwave had done its work. My wife's pride had crumbled. The neighbor's confidence was destroyed. Their secret had been laid bare in front of everyone they knew. I could feel the burden of my suffering lift. The laughter that had once mocked me was replaced with silence, judgment, and the understanding that betrayal has consequences. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm, whole, and in control of my own life. The moment passed, but its effects lingered like a storm that refuses to leave. Her family immediately turned on her. Faces I once respected showed shock and anger. Their whispers grew louder as they confronted her about every hidden secret, every betrayal, and every lie. I watched quietly, knowing that she could no longer escape the consequences of her choices. The trust she had taken for granted was shattered beyond repair. The laughter and mockery that had haunted me in private now became her burden, her shame, her punishment. There was no way to hide now. The neighbor's world crumbled too. People who had trusted him, respected him, or seen him as a friend now avoided him. His arrogance, his pride, and his charm were gone. Those who had supported him silently condemned him openly. Friends and acquaintances whispered in corners, eyes following him with judgment and disbelief. His reputation, carefully built over years, was destroyed in hours. There was no excuse that could save him. The very people he had trusted, the people he had smiled with, turned away. He had nothing left. Even my wife's closest friends could not stand beside her. They could not reconcile the woman they knew with the one who had betrayed trust so completely. Each conversation, each whispered comment, reminded everyone of the truth they had just seen. Her mockery, her laughter, and her deceit were now visible to all. The hidden world she thought was hers alone had been exposed. I realized then that the true weight of betrayal is not just the act. It is the public unraveling, the loss of face, the awareness that the world sees what you tried to hide. Their arrogance, once a source of power, became their greatest weakness. Every smile, every confident gesture, every attempt to charm others fell flat. People who had once admired them now looked at them with pity, disgust, and shame. Their lies, their secret pleasure, their mocking of me, all of it returned to them like a boomerang. The world had turned on them instantly. I did not need to speak another word. The fallout of their betrayal was self-generated, unstoppable, and complete. I observed quietly as the consequences spread. Conversations stopped when they entered a room. Eyes turned away. Invitations disappeared. Every corner of social life that had welcomed them now rejected them. It was not revenge and anger that caused this. It was truth. Exposure of betrayal has a force that no anger, no shouting, no physical confrontation could ever achieve. The world now knew their actions. Their arrogance, once protected in shadows, was now visible under bright lights. Even among their friends, the whispers continued for weeks. People spoke of the betrayal, of the mockery, of the cruel jokes they had made behind my back. My silence had amplified the power of truth. By holding back my reaction and choosing the right moment, I allowed them to fall entirely on the weight of their own actions. Their shame was total. Their power over me, once immense, had vanished. I realized then that exposing betrayal is not only justice, it is liberation for the one who has been wronged. Their life, after that moment, became a series of consequences. Invitations disappeared, respect evaporated, and trust was gone. No matter how they tried to rebuild, the public knowledge of their betrayal would always follow them. People do not forget such things. Their relationships suffered, their social circles shrank, and the world that once accepted them no longer did. Every person who had seen the reveal remembered it, retold it, and reinforced the truth. Their mockery of me had transformed into their own isolation. I did not celebrate. I did not gloat. I did not laugh. I simply observed. The fallout unfolded as it should, naturally and without my interference. Their choices had consequences, and the world responded accordingly. The neighbor's family expressed shock and disappointment. Her relatives were angry and ashamed. Friends turned away. It was as if the universe had balanced itself after the betrayal. All that had been hidden was now clear, and justice was served quietly but fully. I felt a strange peace in watching the aftermath. My role was not to punish through violence or anger, but to expose the truth calmly. The fallout was proof that my patience and careful planning were enough. The mockery, the betrayal, the secret laughter, all of it came back to them in full measure. I felt no pride in their suffering. My pride came from standing calmly, revealing the truth, and leaving it to justice to follow its course. By the end of the evening, the fallout was complete. Their social world had collapsed. The relationships they had counted on, the trust they had taken for granted, and the admiration they had believed was theirs, all gone. The public exposure was more powerful than any confrontation I could have imagined. The secret mockery, the hidden betrayal, the arrogance, they had built their own downfall. And I, having been wronged, now felt the weight lift from my shoulders. I was free. After the chaos of exposure, I walked away quietly. There was no need for more words, no need for explanations or arguments. The truth had done its work, and their world had crumbled around them. I held my head high, feeling the weight of betrayal lift from my shoulders. The laughter and mockery that had once haunted me were gone, replaced by the quiet satisfaction of justice served. I did not rush. I did not run. I simply moved with calm certainty, knowing that the path forward was mine alone. As I left, I could see her struggling to regain composure. Her eyes darted around, searching for allies, but she had none. The neighbor tried to follow, tried to defend himself, but it was too late. The evidence had spoken louder than their lies ever could. Their friends, their families, even casual acquaintances, all watched silently. I did not engage. I did not need to. The room had already judged them. Their shame, their panic, their humiliation. It was complete and final. Walking through the door, I felt a sense of relief I had not felt in months. My life had been weighed down by secrecy, betrayal, and mockery. Every night, I had replayed the whispers, the laughter, and the hidden smiles that had once mocked my loyalty. But now, all of that was gone. The truth had set me free. I did not look back, and I did not care to. Their punishment had been delivered by the very force they had tried to avoid. The world now knew their lies. I moved through the streets calmly, feeling the quiet strength of a man who had endured betrayal and emerged whole. People around me were unaware of what had just occurred, yet I felt lighter. Each step reminded me that I had acted with patience, dignity, and purpose. I had not shouted, I had not caused chaos, and I had not acted in anger. Instead, I had used truth as my weapon, and it was stronger than anything I could have imagined. The quiet exit was my statement. I was done with lies, done with betrayal, and done with the pain they caused. As I continued, memories returned of how I had trusted them blindly, how I had shared my life with my wife and my neighbor, never imagining that both would betray me, how their laughter, once private, had turned into a public weapon. But all of that was now behind me. The quiet exit was symbolic. I was leaving their world of deceit and stepping into my own world of truth and freedom. Each step felt lighter, each breath easier. I knew I had reclaimed my dignity without losing myself. People who once greeted them warmly would no longer do so. The fallout of exposure would follow them for years, a constant reminder of their betrayal. Meanwhile, I had nothing but freedom and peace. I had left behind anger, resentment, and the heavy burden of mockery. The quiet exit meant I did not need to fight any further. Their shame and their punishment were theirs to bear. I had no part in it except for revealing the truth. My life could now continue without their shadows darkening my path. I thought about what revenge truly meant. It was not shouting, not fighting, not destroying. Revenge was calm, quiet, and precise. It was showing the truth and allowing it to do its work. By walking away, I let the world judge them, let their lies crumble under the weight of reality, and let their mockery turn against them. My silence, patience, and careful planning had created a moment that no anger could ever match. The quiet exit was my final act of strength. As I moved farther away, the relief became more profound. The years of trust, the years of sacrifice, the years of believing in loyalty, it had all led to this moment of liberation. I did not need to confront them again. I did not need to fight for justice. I had simply stood, revealed the truth, and let the consequences fall naturally. The quiet exit ensured that I retained control over myself and my emotions. I was no longer a victim. I was a man at peace with what had happened. Even as the evening faded and the party behind me became a distant noise, I felt empowered. I had acted not out of vengeance, but out of principle. The exposure of betrayal, the shockwave it caused, and the fallout that followed were enough. I did not gloat. I did not celebrate. I simply walked, knowing that truth had defeated lies, and that dignity had survived where mockery had fallen. The quiet exit was my victory, my closure, and my freedom. By the time I reached home, I understood the lesson fully. Revenge is not about chaos or destruction. It is about action, patience, and the proper timing of truth. I had used all three. I had revealed betrayal, exposed lies, and allowed the world to witness what they thought was hidden. And I had walked away, leaving them to face their shame and me to face a new chapter of life. Calmly, quietly, I had reclaimed my life. Now, many years later, I think back to that night with clear eyes and a steady heart. The pain of betrayal was deep, and the heartbreak it caused stayed with me for months. I remember the quiet suffering, the sleepless nights, the endless replaying of their laughter and whispers in my mind. Yet, looking back now, I realize that those moments of suffering taught me something important. They taught me the value of patience, the power of truth, and the strength that comes from standing firm without losing your dignity. The exposure of my wife and neighbor's affair was not just revenge. It was the reclaiming of my life and my peace. Betrayal leaves a mark, but it does not have to define you. I could have reacted with anger, shouts, or chaos, but I chose calm, evidence, and timing. That choice changed everything. My quiet exit after revealing the truth was not a sign of weakness. It was a demonstration of strength. I had endured mockery and deceit, yet I walked away intact. I learned that exposing lies is often more powerful than any physical or loud confrontation. Truth, when revealed clearly and calmly, carries its own justice. I felt free in that moment, not because they suffered, but because I no longer carried the weight of deception. The lessons of that night stayed with me. Trust must be given carefully, but when broken, the power of truth can restore balance. Silence can protect the guilty, but it also protects those who are wise enough to wait for the right moment. I realized that revenge is not about hurting others. It is about reclaiming your life and dignity. By revealing their affair publicly, I let the world witness what had been hidden. I let the consequences fall naturally. I did not need to raise my voice or cause a scene beyond showing the evidence. The world judged them, and justice followed its course. I have also learned that betrayal often exposes character, not just actions. My wife's choice to mock my trust while cheating revealed her true nature. The neighbor's complicity showed the danger of misplaced loyalty. Observing the fallout taught me that people cannot hide who they truly are for long. Deception may thrive in private, but the truth always finds a way to the light. Seeing their shame, humiliation, and isolation reminded me that the universe has a way of balancing wrongs when given the chance. I had played my part by exposing the truth, and the rest followed naturally. Looking back, I understand now that my calmness, patience, and careful planning were the keys to my peace. I did not act out of rage, and I did not seek violent revenge. Instead, I relied on evidence, timing, and the natural consequences of exposure. The mockery that had once hurt me now turned on them, and the world saw it clearly. I walked away not to gloat, but to live freely. I discovered that true strength lies in maintaining your dignity, controlling your emotions, and letting truth speak louder than anger ever could. Even now, as an older man, I tell this story to remind others of the lessons I learned. Trust should be valued, but it must be guarded. Betrayal can hurt deeply, but it does not have to destroy your life. The exposure of lies can be done calmly, without anger, and it will carry more weight than any other action. The quiet, thoughtful approach to justice ensures that you remain in control, while those who betrayed you face the consequences naturally. I have seen the power of patience, truth, and dignity firsthand, and it has guided me ever since. The night I revealed the affair was a turning point in my life. It ended the pain of secrecy, the weight of mockery, and the uncertainty of trust betrayed. I walked out with my head high, knowing that the world now knew the truth. I had faced betrayal with courage, exposed deceit with clarity, and moved forward with my dignity intact. That moment of reflection, looking at the fallout and understanding the lessons, gave me the peace that I had longed for during months of suffering. The shockwave, the fallout, the exit, they all came together to teach me that truth is the ultimate weapon. I also reflect on human nature. People who betray often think they are clever, hiding in shadows, mocking those who trust them. But time and truth reveal everything. I saw how quickly arrogance turned into panic, laughter turned into shame, and mockery turned into humiliation. It reminded me that patience is a virtue and that the right timing amplifies the power of exposure. By waiting and planning, I ensured that the betrayal's consequences were maximum, while my own actions remained controlled, dignified, and free from impulsive emotion. Finally, I remember the inner peace I felt afterward. Betrayal had been devastating, but exposure restored balance. I did not need revenge in anger or chaos. I needed truth, patience, and courage. Standing up, revealing the affair, watching the fallout, and leaving quietly brought closure. It proved that strength does not come from aggression, but from clarity, composure, and timing. The laughter that mocked me had been replaced by the consequences faced by those who wronged me. I realized that exposing lies is not cruel. It is just. And so, I end my story with this thought. Betrayal may hurt, mockery may sting, and trust may be broken. But truth, revealed with patience and courage, will always prevail. The quiet, calm, and decisive exposure of deceit restores dignity, frees the heart, and brings peace that anger never could. As I sit now, older and wiser, I can say without bitterness, they mocked my trust. I revealed their lies. That was enough. I walked away, and in that moment, I was free. Ever needed to whisper again,